All right, if you've been watching this channel for a bit, you know I'm a certified financial planner, which means that I help people manage their money and make smart investment decisions. So you would immediately conclude that I know a thing or two about investing. For the most part, it is true, but there's one investment area that I do not know a lot about and actually had a failed experience with. So what was this investment? What was this investment that I failed miserably with? It was with real estate. So with real estate, a lot of people want to invest into real estate and you can make a lot of money, and I thought the same thing. So this was about 8 or 9 years ago that I tried my first real estate investment, and it didn't fare so well. Actually, it bombed. It failed miserably. Now thankfully, I didn't lose a lot of money. I could have, and you can too if you don't know anything about real estate investing. And today I want to share with you what were the 7 things I learned from this failed real estate investment so that you don't make the same mistake. Let's find out what these 7 mistakes are right now. All right, let me first give you some backstory on this. So I was about 5 years into me growing my financial planning practice. The practice was doing well. I was making good money. And obviously, I've read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I wanted to have that side hustle. I want to have that extra income. So I'm looking for different things to do. It seems like everybody that I know that has made money, including like Donald Trump and all these other big wigs, they made it from real estate. So I'm thinking, okay, if I want to make some more money, if I want to, become wealthy, become rich, I need to get into real estate investing. So funny enough, my father-in-law had bought this audio CD set and it was put out by a guy by the name of Carlton Sheets. Never heard of Carlton Sheets before, but if you do a quick Google search, you'll see he's a real estate guru and he has this whole informational product that he sells. So this was like a 12 to 15 audio CD set that I devoured. I listened to every single CD that he had. I went through all the workbooks and I got through this, and I was determined that I was going to become a real estate investor. I was become a real estate investment guru. I can remember I went to a baseball game with one of my good friends, and I remember we were waiting in line to get some food, maybe grab a beer, and I remember I telling him that, hey, by the end of this year, I'm going to own 12 real estate investment properties. That's what I told him. I hadn't even bought one yet, but yet I told him I was going to own more than 12 by the end of the year. Like that's how, I'll say, determined I was, or really how ignorant I was. Once again, I hadn't even made one investment yet I thought I was going to own 12 by the end of the year. That obviously did not come to be, because that's why I'm doing this video about the 7 mistakes that I learned. So this was a little bit about the background of me and wanting to become a real estate investor, kind of the why, build wealth, all that good stuff. But as I mentioned, it didn't quite work out that way. So what exactly happened? What did I learn? What were the mistakes I made? Well, this is how it all worked out. All right, finally getting home, getting out of that wind so I can talk more about these real estate mistakes. So here I am. I'm gonna become a real estate investor. I've got 12 properties I'm gonna buy before the end of the year. And I finally find a property. Now I started looking at many different properties. There were some HUD properties, there were some other I guess kind of like foreclosure type stuff, but most of the ones that we were looking at were just in the newspaper. I lived in a small town area, rural area, so just looking the classifieds and just looking through the Sunday paper, the classifieds, all that good stuff, trying to find good properties, and that's how I was going about it. Now we made a few offers on, especially I remember there was a HUD house that we thought would be a great investment. Made an offer, felt pretty good about it, did not get accepted. I think somebody else had a higher offer, so we lost out on that one. And then we finally found, I guess, like a condo. It was like a 2-bedroom apartment, or it's a duplex is what it was. So it was a duplex that we thought, hey, it was a good location, thought it was a decent price, so I made an offer on it. The offer ended up getting accepted, and that's kind of where things started to go wrong, which I'll share more later on. All right, so before I start talking about the property that we made the offer on that ended up being my learning experience or the mistake, let's first talk about the first mistake. And the first mistake is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Now, I don't want to put any blame on Carlton Sheets. I'm sure that he is a very successful real estate investor, but with his program, with his audio CDs, I mean, he makes it sound that anybody can do it. And yes, anybody can do it, but it does take a lot of work. But if you looked at a lot of material, it gave kind of, I would say, a sense of false hope. But I know, me being a finance guy, like, I'm thinking it's a numbers thing. This should be pretty easy for me. Being a real estate investor, it does take a lot of work. It does take making connections. It does take learning, you know, what is a good offer and how to actually find these properties, which we'll talk about here more in a second. If it is too good to be true, it probably is. And that could be the program itself, if somebody's overhyping a program, or it could be the property. You know, maybe there is a property that you just think is an amazing property and you're going to get it at a steal. Well, you have to think that if you're a newbie real estate investor and you're the only one that is getting this opportunity to buy this property, you better think twice about that, because there are a lot of other real estate investors out there that know a lot more than you, and you have to ask yourself, like, why are you the only one that's getting this opportunity? Why are you the lucky one? Why isn't another real estate investor that's been doing this for 2 to 3 times longer than you have, like, why haven't they bought this property yet if it's such a great deal? So if it's too good to be true, it probably is. All right, the second thing for me was sticking with what you know versus what you think you might love. And as I mentioned, for me, I was a financial planner. I think it was about 5 years in the business, 4 to 5 years in the business. I was doing very well, but there was definitely a lot more potential there had I put more time into it. And actually, if you check out another one of my videos where I talk about earning multiple income streams, in particular 7 multiple income streams, I talk about this. And what I talk about there is that I had a lot more room for growth in growing my financial planning business. I could get more clients, I could do more seminars, I could network more. I still had a lot more clients I could bring on and grow that revenue. I kind of got that shiny object syndrome to where I wanted to go out and do something else. You know, kind of like, I feel like I had proven myself here as a financial planner, which, I mean, I kind of had because I survived, but I still could be making a lot more money. But I feel like I need to go do the other thing, the next fun and exciting thing. And at that time, it was real estate. So as I mentioned, you know, we were looking at properties, we were making offers on other properties. We had this property, this duplex that we made an offer on and it got accepted. All that takes a lot of time. And I remember I was in my car driving around, you know, doing some research, looking up stuff online, you know, just trying to be listening to the Carlton Sheets audio CDs. I mean, I was investing a lot of my extra time into learning more about real estate, which, that's great. I mean, that's how you have to learn, but that was taking away time from the thing that was my primary income source, and that was me being a financial planner. And here's the thing, like, that's what I was good at. Like, that's what I did. That's why I became a certified financial planner, because that was, at the time, that was my calling. Real estate investing for me at the time, like, that was just this other thing that was really becoming a distraction. And yeah, it was kind of fun, but the reality is, like, I didn't know it. And maybe there is a time that I will want to know it, but at that time, like, that just was not a good time. And that was just this learning experience for me to realize I need to focus my energy where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck. And there's a few books that you could read that really talk about this. You have Greg McKeown's Essentialism, or you have The One Thing, that really just focus on what is that one thing that you are good at, and pour everything that you have into that. Pour all of your extra time, your energy, your resources, your passion into this one thing until you get full capacity, until you maximize the full value out of that. I hadn't done that yet. And the real estate and investing, this whole dream that I had, was taking away from that. It was robbing me from that. All right, the third thing that I learned is that true deals, like the really good deals, the ones that real estate investors make a killing on, are a lot harder to find than you would think, or at least that you are led to believe, especially when you are listening to audio CDs that are telling you that, oh, the real estate deals are out there. Once again, they are out there. There are real estate investors that are making a killing, but you have to recognize that going to the classifieds, looking in your local newspaper, or going online and going to the MLS listing that everybody else has access to, is not going to uncover those deals that are out there. I mean, you have to be in the know. So you have to kind of know the area. You gotta have some good realtors that are also in the know, that they can show you some good investment properties. You gotta have connections with other real estate investors that maybe this is a type of investment that they're not interested at the time, or maybe it's not their specialty, or they just want to do something nice for you and, you know, give you an opportunity to become a real estate investor. The HUD property, we didn't find that on our own. That was a realtor that we connected with that found that property, and she helped us through that process. So she's the one that found it. We wouldn't have found it, she found it. So without having that real life experience or having those solid connections, in the real estate market, finding these dream deals is really, really hard. I won't say it's impossible, but it's really, really hard. All right, the fourth thing that I learned is never overpay for a piece of property. I mean, and this applies to anything, right? This applies to buying a house or buying a car or buying a stock. Never overpay for anything. And that's basically what I found out the hard way. So this duplex that we found, I think the asking price was $120,000 and the rent was about $1,200 a month. And I believe it was in the Carlton Sheets audio CD guidebook that talked about, if you can find a property that you can get 1% back on the lease payment or the rent payment, like that's a good buy, or that's a decent buy. And that was the formula that I went with whenever we found this property in the newspaper and then making an offer on it. Now, why I didn't do this to begin with, but I knew that my CPA was also a very astute real estate investor, and I didn't go to him before we made the offer. I went to him after we made the offer and the offer was accepted. And then I shared with him the property and what we paid for it, what they were asking, what the rent was, all that good stuff. And he just looked at it and he's like, Jeff, like this is not a good deal. Like, this is an okay deal, what you are paying and what you are getting per month. If you have one minor issue with this property, air conditioner goes out, you got to get a new fridge, new stove, something, whatever. If anything happens, which most likely it will, you're going to be out of the money. You're going to end up losing money until you finally pay it off, which is going to be 15 years from now. Like, this is not a good deal. 1% is not the benchmark you want to use. You want to be much better than that. So if you're on a $120,000 property and you want the rent to be like $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month instead of the $1,200 that we were going to get. And that leads us into number 5. Number 5 is, cash flow is everything, but you better know how to calculate it from the beginning. As I mentioned, like, this whole 1% rule was something I just kind of ran with and did not feel the need to check that with anybody else until after we made the offer and the offer was accepted. But these are the types of things that you gotta know. Now, I do talk about this a lot on my channel, especially when it comes to investing. I tell people, if you wanna learn how to invest, you can go read investment books. You can go watch YouTube videos, but how you actually learn is you do. You go out and do. So that's why I always talk about going out and opening an investment account, whether that be locally or online with like an E-Trade or a Betterment, because you're gonna learn so much more going through the process versus trying to read that in a book or taking somebody for a cup of coffee to learn through that. You're gonna learn a lot, but you learn so much more from doing. And that's how I felt with the real estate investing. I learned a lot. A little bit different with real estate because we're not talking about opening up an online trading account and putting in like $500. What we're talking about here is me being on the hook for a $120,000 property and paying this thing off over the next 15 to 30 years. That's slightly different. So I would highly encourage you, if you're going to make an offer on a piece of property, you better do your homework first, and you better have somebody that knows more about real estate investing than you do to double check the property that you're getting ready to buy. Get a second opinion. Don't go into this blindly. You are going to regret it. All right, number 6, and I've already kind of mentioned this, is looking for deals in all the wrong places. You're not gonna find deals looking in your local newspaper. It ain't gonna happen. These deals are typically word of mouth. This is coming from realtors, this is coming from other real estate investors. This is just, maybe it's in a subdivision or community where everybody that lives there, and if you know somebody's going to be moving, or if you know somebody that has like a sick parent that they need to get rid of the house or they need to downsize, like these are where you find the really good deals. You're not gonna find these online or on Craigslist. You're gonna find this through your network, through realtors. You gotta know that that's where all the good deals are gonna be found. I think another aspect too is you have to realize that, as I mentioned, we made an offer on a HUD house, we had the duplex, and there were a few other properties. I don't think we made any other offers, but I've talked to very successful real estate investors, and I'm sure this can happen, but typically what does not happen is you go out and find a property, you make an offer, it gets accepted, and then you walk away with a huge fat check because you just found the dream property. Sure, it could happen, but most likely it's not. Most real estate investors, especially the successful ones, are going to make offers on tons of properties. It could be dozens of different properties before they finally find the right deal and actually finds the deal that gets accepted, that they can either flip it or rent it out or resell it, wholesale or something like that. But it's going to take looking at a lot of different properties, doing a lot of research, driving around, becoming more familiar with your area, wherever you want to buy these properties, and then is making multiple offers. In the whole process too, you're gonna make connections with that, right? You're gonna have some realtors, you're gonna maybe talk to some loan officers, and once you kind of start building your network of people that know that you're interested in real estate, the longer you do it, the longer they're gonna keep pieces of property in mind in case one comes up. So you just have to keep that in mind. You're gonna have to make a lot of offers. You're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to do a ton of research before you find that magic property. All right, number 7, and this once again applies to anything, never let greed control your emotions. Now, I don't know if I'm totally guilty in this, but there definitely was some greed involved. For me to make an offer on a property that I felt was a great property, and I don't know what I thought I was going to make on this thing. It was a very safe investment. You got a duplex. It wasn't like I was buying a house on foreclosure, for $80,000 I could resell for $140,000. I mean, this was a very slower way of building wealth. But the fact that I didn't go out and get a second opinion, that I didn't take a breath and to realize that, I wonder if this is actually a decent deal. The fact that I didn't go about doing those safety measures, we had to conclude that greed was definitely involved. But I'll tell you, I know people that have leveraged their homes, that they have taken out extra debt because of a great investment opportunity. Doesn't always have to be real estate. Real estate is just another example. Don't let greed get in the way of your emotions, of having any say in rash decisions, because once again, like with me, this is not a $100 online trading account. I mean, this is a potentially huge amount of debt that you're getting ready to take on. And if you have a home mortgage, if you're trying to buy a house, if you got a family to support, I mean, this is a pretty scary endeavor that you're getting into. And don't discount that. I mean, real estate can make you a lot of money, but can make you broke in a hurry. And there's a reason why you talk to people, and I'm thinking like a Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, these are some financial experts now, but they were at a time early on in their life that they had to file for bankruptcy because of failed real estate investments. That's the real deal, right? Had to file bankruptcy because of making bad financial decisions, bad financial investments. I'm assuming that greed had a factor in that, because if they had to file for bankruptcy because they made some bad deals, I mean, you're over leveraged, you're trying to make more than you need to make, and that's the real deal, and that's what can happen. I haven't shared this as far as the ending, what happened. So we made an offer on this duplex, it was accepted, and then after I met with my CPA and shared with him all the numbers, he just said, Jeff, you gotta get out of this deal. You're not gonna make anything, you'll be lucky if you break even. I then had to go back and basically rescind my offer. Now with that, typically there is earnest money, which is kind of like a deposit, if you make an offer, and we only had to put down, I think it was like $500. And I can't remember the excuse that we made, but we basically just said we weren't interested. I should have had to eat that $500 earnest money deposit, but the person, the lady that we were buying it from was very gracious and allowed us to get out of the contract and not have to void or not have to release that $500 to her. So I didn't lose any money in the deal, lost a lot of time, definitely lost a little bit of sleep because I was stressed that I'd made a really stupid decision. All in all, I mean, it definitely was a great learning experience. And to this day, I am still not technically a real estate investor. I don't own any properties. I do have a real estate note on a property. I do have an online account with Fundrise, which is another option that you can check out, but I do not have any properties as of right now. And that was, like I said, 8 or 9 years ago. Will that change? Maybe. But the funny thing that happened after that was, this was before I started the blog. And after I started the blog, it was just an extension of what I know and what I love, just sharing my financial planning experience and my knowledge online, which was just an extension of what I was doing to clients one-on-one. So it was kind of fun. It was like I said, a huge learning lesson, but it was a perfect stepping stone to get me to that next step, which for me ended up being the blog Good Financial Sense, and why I'm here today. All right, if you're interested in learning more about how you can become a real estate investor without actually managing properties, then you need to check out the other video that I have where I talk about this. So there is a way that you can invest into real estate without having to go through the process that I've outlined in this video. So go check that video out, because I share multiple ways that you can become a real estate investor without having to manage the properties that have all that stress. And I'm curious, I want to hear from you. Are you a real estate investor? Have you ever considered investing into real estate? If so, I want to know in the comments below. Share your real estate investing experience. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell, that notification bell, so that you know when the latest video has dropped, because I don't know, that's just what I do. Putting out great content so that you can learn and become a much more informed and better investor, because you know what? It's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. This is Jeff Rose saying peace.